Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Ranger? Yes. Mr. Garber?
Yes. Motion approved. I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Beverly. She talked about financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Garth. Thank you, Board, Dr. Keenan, and all the members of the audience. I'm not sure if Mark is able to, Mark.
I can't project it, but I can put it on live stream.
So this month, we actually had to approve November and December because we did not have a meeting in December. So the financial statement is in your packet for December. And the current year-to-date revenue collections indicate a $1,372 favorable compared to the forecast, which just kind of means that we're on point with our forecast. We're forecasting the way that the money is coming in. So that's usually a good way to indicate that our revenues and expenditures are on task. Our current year-to-date expenditures indicate an $18,493 unfavorable compared to the forecast. And later on, I'll kind of explain why there's a difference between the forecast and what we've spent. In the middle of the page, there's a variance with the December cash balances from last year compared to this year. And the same goes with the expenditures. And the reason that is because of the new state funding plan. We do not get the money that would go to the non-public schools in the community schools or any kind of scholarships or anything like that. Those all go directly to those schools. So we don't get that money in and we don't have to expend it out. So that's one of the big reasons that we have a difference in our revenues and expenditures. So on the second page, you can see that there's a difference like down the bottom. Compared to the same period last year, revenues are down like 1.7 million. And that's because that money is going directly to those schools that we're not getting. So, and then it just kind of gives you a couple pages of analysis for revenue. And then the same thing happens with the expenditures. Our expenditures, they've increased a little this year compared to last year, but that's because of the new negotiated agreements that we have with most and MHTA and the raises that the administration got. And then compared to the same time last year, it's $993 and $211. Oh my goodness, I can't talk. $993,211 lower than the previous year. And most of that is due to the not having to pay the payments out for those community schools and non-public schools. But and the very last page is our financial or bank reconciliation, and it shows you the bank balance and what we have in investments and like Star Ohio, US Bank, and that helps keep us running all year long. So we're doing a pretty good job this year. And since we moved some of our investments into the longer term, we've actually had a little bit higher interest revenue coming in. So, and that would be the US Bank where it's $11.3 million. That is where we're seeing the most return on our money. If anybody have any questions, I can answer them. So, and I'm asking for approval of recommendation 7A 1 through 6 tonight.
Ms. Beverly is asking that we approve our financial report A1 through A6. So, second. Can I have a roll call, clerk?
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell,
Yes.
Ms. Granger, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes. Motion approved. Also, we didn't give a time for Ms. Granger. Granger, anything to say? Okay. Well, make sure I give her time to speak. Next, we have superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Beverly. Can you hear me okay? Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Ms. Beverly. My report for this evening, I have several things on the information for tonight. Under 8.1, the first thing I'd like to do is recognize our school board. January is National School Board Recognition Month, and board members don't often get recognized for the hard work, direction, leadership that they do in each community. And we have some outstanding board members in Maple Heights, very fortunate to have. And I'd like to recognize them here this evening. So if you can put them in round of applause, they introduce each one. I'm going to give them a certificate. Certificate that's created by the Ohio School Boards Association, and what we had to make ourselves as a last minute fix to make sure we got one here tonight. But first of all, I'd like to recognize Mr. Alonzo Black. Secondly, I'd like to recognize Mr. Gerald Brown. Board President, Mr. Wendell Gard. Board Member, Ms. Rosalind Moore. Newly appointed Board Member, Ms. Sheree Green. Let me skip around for a second because our next part of information may be a little more lengthy. I'd like to do it under recognition at this time. Last week, one of our staff members was recognized statewide and maybe even nationally. We're hoping that that will be the case. Ms. Andrea Beam, if you wouldn't mind coming up, please, at this time. Ms. Beam was recognized for the state Rise Award. And I asked her to come and speak a little bit about that. We've known for a little bit of time, but ODE had asked us to hold this information until they were able to put together a press release, and they've done so. And Ms. Beam was recognized actually last week, and I asked her to come and speak to you this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Keenan. Good evening, members of the school board, Superintendent Dr. Keenan, and board treasurer, KJ Beverly. I am so honored to be chosen as the 2021 Ohio Rise Award recipient. The Rise Award was passed by the United States Congress in 2019, and it RISE simply stands for Recognizing Inspirational Support Educators. So I never thought that I would be given such a wonderful recognition for the things that I do every day. During my years as a Cleveland City School student, there were educators who nurtured and supported me. These educators, far too many to name, left their examples of love and kindness on my heart. I honor these educators by paying it forward, hoping that our students will always use us as examples of how to treat others and care for our community. I would like to thank the board members and Rosalind Moore, Dr. Keenan, and Dr. Shea Price for their unwavering support, and I am really humbled beyond words to receive this award. Thank you.
So I just want to take a quick second to explain how big this award is. This is not a local recognition. This is in the state of Ohio. There are only 2 educators across the entire state that are recognized, and there are 100 across the country that are up for the national award. You get the opportunity, if you go to our website, you'll see the coverage of Ms. Beeman when she was being presented by the state superintendent. And I really feel that she has a great shot at being a national representative for this award. So congratulations again. For 83, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize a few people for donations. Over the holiday season, we had some really wonderful donations from the Cleveland Cares Organization. Angelo Lardamina, who's a Maple Heights graduate, donated nearly 300 toys to give to students across Maple Heights City Schools. The other gift that we want to recognize this evening is from St. Andrew's Eastern Orthodox Church. There's a generous donation of 13 miscellaneous gift cards that were given out to students and families of John F. Kennedy from those groups. So I wanted to recognize them publicly this evening. Under 884 for information is presented to the board this evening, home instruction. And then I'd like to turn to Ms. Shay Price, who's going to talk a little bit about the building level goals. As most of you know, we have a district continuous improvement plan. The board has asked us to present publicly throughout the school year this past year and into the new year. And part of that is building level action plans as well. And so Ms. Price and the team is going to talk a little bit about the building level plans and what we've accomplished to this point at Maple Heights High School. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Price at this time. Dr. Price, I apologize. Board, if we can jump out to the front and show on the screen.
All right, thank you, everyone. So greetings, and thank you for joining us tonight. To Board President Garth, Superintendent Keenan, the remainder of the board members, central office staff, family, students, friends, thank you for being here. Before we get started, I would like to recognize the high school staff that came to support us in the presentation today. So high school staff, let me see where you are, raise your hand, they're all here, they came to support. And so I'm very grateful that they are here tonight. So again, thank you and welcome to the high school. So as Dr. Keenan stated earlier, we've been charged with presenting our building plans to you all, what we're working on, what we hope to accomplish. And so we started this journey first back in June at our retreat. The board gave us some great guidelines that they would like for us to follow. So we worked from there. And as you'll see through the presentation, there are 3 areas that we focus on: academics, communication, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, so I am again Shay Price, and I have my administrative team here with me. First up is Ms. Regina Bryant, Mr. Thomas Meyer, Mr. Chris Sutton, and Ms. Deanne McCloud. So this is the high school administrative team. Now, what I would first like to show you on the board is a quote that's there. It's a moonshot thinking quote, and it's actually by President John F. Kennedy back when they were in the whole space race for America to be the first to send people to the moon. So it has here is we choose to go to the moon in this decade and to do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one that we intend to win. John F. Kennedy. So we go right into the next slide. It's so relevant because I want to tell you that on March 16th, 2020, we were preparing to do this exact same thing. We were preparing to present to the board our goals and plans on March 16th, 2020. We never got to do that presentation. We never got to, because on March 13th, the schools were closed. We are so excited. This would have been packed with teachers, We were all dressed alike in our Pathfinder shirts. We were excited. We wanted that presentation to happen because of this. We wanted to show you that at the end of the 2018-19 school year, this is what our students did on their state assessment. We are proud of that. This is the growth and the achievement that we had in math and ELA. This was it. The previous year, in 2017-18, we had started to show growth. So we wanted that 1920 testing. We needed it because I'll tell you, in 2017, it did not look good. It was the first year we switched over from paper to computer. It was really hard for us. We did not do well. It was in the red. I will tell you no lies. Every 3 years, they cycled this through the state. Well, that 1920 year was the time for that 17 year to come on. So we were looking forward to having the results from the 1920 year so we could have 3 years of green, which would not only allow us to be recognized by the state for a momentum award, it also shows that our students were growing. We had got them to that place. So it definitely can happen. We can think about going to the moon because we've seen it. This is live. You can go to EVOS. It's not made up data. You can go find it. It can happen. All right, Mr. Sutton, if you would go and let me show you. This was from 2021. Look, you see what happened here. You see what happened. We went backwards. We were excited about 1920. We were excited because we identified students who we knew could grow. We got students to buy into their own data. They came down to our data room and saw how much more they needed to grow. We had teachers buy into this. And again, where I'm not too much concerned about this on a state report card because we're in Safe Harbor, that don't count, but it matters. Because you saw where we were before we walked out the door. And this is where we're back. It's heartbreaking, actually, when you look at it. Because our students are able to perform at the level that we want them to. You can't tell me. We had them in a good place. We had our staff in a good place. So before we showed you our presentation, I just wanted to go back to tell you, this is where we were, walking into the meeting that we were gonna have, this same meeting on March 16th, 2020, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Sutton. So where we are this year, in accordance to the guidelines that our board set, and we work on these 3 areas: academics, communication, diversity, and equity. There are a plethora of things that can fall under these 3 categories. However, we narrow them down so we can have focused ones over a 5-year plan. And these are the ones that we're working on in year 1. So under academics, there's prepare for success. And then there's high quality curriculum assessment and instruction. Under communication, we want to get better at communicating internally and externally. We also wanted to help the district support the district in reestablishing our community connection newsletter. And then under diversity and equity, we know that one was a big deal for our district. It was just time to start focusing on the underserved, the underprivileged, whether that's gender, race, whatever. It's time to look at that. We knew that as a district, the board told us that this is the way we should go, and we did. So we are looking at actually there was a survey done. The district people did a survey. We wanted to establish a committee, look at those results, and see what we needed to do to address this giant of an issue that we had in our district. But we also needed to just conduct a needs assessment to see how we can help our underserved, our students of color with disabilities, those things. So that's when we were working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we're going to start with academics. All right, so first up, we have prepare for success. Now, I am not going to read through everything. I will talk about the plans that are up here, why we needed the plans briefly, and what we're working on, and what we hope to accomplish, okay? So the first goal under Prepare for Success, under academics, is Prepare for Success. We wanted to create a culture that influences and motivates students to become college and or career ready. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. The first thing we had to do is acknowledge that everybody's not going to go to college. That's the first thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. We had to let go of that. It's not. And also, on the state report card, there is a section, Prepare for Success. And so goes the high school, so goes the district. So we carry that here. Prepare for Success is Mr. Sutton's area. So what I'm gonna do is go through them because we didn't want to prolong it. When it's time for questioning, if you want to question me or the person in this specific area, that's fine. But to speed up the process a little bit, I'm just gonna go ahead and go through them. So each administrator has been assigned an area to work in. Prepare for Success. Again, this is a big one, but we needed this plan because we had low numbers of students receiving ACT remediated free scores. If you don't know what that means, there's a cutoff. That means you need like a 22 in math, a 22 in English. We weren't getting those things. We may have a student who have a 17 in math and then the 27 in reading, but it doesn't work that way. So we were not seeing our kids come in ACT remediated free ready. We also needed to work on getting students industry credentials that were in our CTE program, our career tech program. We have them here in our building, housed. We are in a consortium. There's 5 schools. They offer over 27 programs, but here in Maple Heights High School, we have cosmetology, auto tech, construction, marketing, teacher academy, media arts. What else? No, I said cosmetology. Oh, criminology. Those are the 7 that's housed here. So our students work to receive industry credentials that will help them be successful when they leave the program. For instance, if you're in media arts, you can earn Adobe software. You know, we like to work on Adobe, whether it's InDesign, videos, whatever. When they leave that program, we owe it to them, that they can have something to show for it, that this just wasn't a cool class that I kicked it in for 2 weeks. We owe it to them. So we're working on it. We embedded these credentials into the classes, and so we're proud of that. So we'll see that on the next slide. But also we need this plan because there is just not enough access to post-secondary opportunities for our students. You know, we have that small population that go out and seek scholarships or seek schooling, but that's not everybody. It's not the majority, but we do have students who want to go to school. They want these things, and it just wasn't happening for them. So we had to make it available. All right, Mr. Sutton, I'm ready. All right, so this is the college ready aspect. These are some things we've been doing. We've added ACT prep classes for all honor students and anyone who wants to take them. We have on-site college credit plus courses. I can't take credit for Ashley. It's already been here before me, but our students do have those, and now we have Tri-C come in as well to offer college credit to our students. We do have AP courses. We work with the College Now partnership. We needed that bad. That's someone who come in and say, hey, okay, you want to go to school? Let me help you. Let me look at these things. Let me tell you, it was like an extra set of hands for a guidance department. We started that this year, so I'm very grateful for it. Warrensville hosts the HBCU fair. We took a bus load. We had the second highest number of students in Cleveland to register for that. So that was, we were pushing that. Our skill this year has been about HBCUs. For the college and career, for the CTE programs like I just told you about, we offer a fair for the students to see which one of these programs they want to go to. You know, they walk around here, they may think they want to do hair, they may think they want to be a teacher, whatever. They're here for them to see. So we have the fair. Okay? And I think another big one that I should say is we're working with the middle school to make sure that this ACT talk don't start here with me, that it start down in the lower grades, because we know that there are other districts and there's other communities where students start taking the ACT in the 7th and 8th grade. In our community, sometimes our parents think that in 11th grade, that's an 11th grade, that's a high school type thing. But if we start educating them early and working with them, we can make this happen, and we're going to. And we plan, this is our second year that we plan to have a group of 8th graders take the ACT in June. If everything works out, they will. Okay, now for the career side, I just told you we work on making sure that students have access to the industry credentials. We hosting potential job fair. We did host it before COVID. We're hoping to get it back. Dr. Keenan and I sat on a meeting where they told us that they were interested in bringing that back with people like Kalahari, Cedar Point, all those places. They come and it's a big deal. And we even invite students from other schools to come in and apply for some of those jobs, but it's in partnership with YOU, okay? Also, this was pretty sad, but Tri-C had this big career fair or school fair plan right before we got ready to go on the break, and it had to be closed down because of COVID. But there were like 28 people from Tri-C that were coming in, and we had to shut it down. So that's a bummer, but they are going to reschedule. Okay. All right. So our next part of academics is quality curriculum assessment and instruction. Can't have academics without this. You gotta have solid foundations of these things. We have some gaps, not afraid to admit that. We have some gaps in our curriculum. We had a lack of staff self-efficacy. We had lack of lesson designs, engagement, and it went both ways on our student side and our staff side. But we are still working to implement new and engaging ideas for our staff so that we can help our students. I showed you the graphs in the beginning. It's hard, y'all. Our students they are not in a great place when it comes to just mentally coming in, sit down, learning the same way. It's a struggle. It's a struggle, and it's not just a Maple Heights struggle. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. So we cannot teach the same. We cannot say the same things. We have to change it up a little bit. And I'm glad that I have a staff that's willing to do that, because we recognize that it's tough. But like we said in the quotes, we're not trying to do what's easy. We're trying to do what's right. And all the time, that's not easy. What's right is oftentimes hard. You can go ahead. So when it comes to curriculum and assessment, there's a lot of work going on with that. Up here, as you can see, you can read through that. But the biggest thing, like we've talked about, I want to go because this ties to the DEI. We're working on auditing our resources and materials to ensure that they are diverse and representative of people of color. That just makes a difference when I can read something that I can relate to, or my lesson is something that I can relate to. So that is a really, really big deal. We're trying to get back to hitting hard, analyzing our data. We want that same energy that we had before we left. And again, it's taking time, but we are getting back there. So here's, like I said, there's an entire list of things that either we're working on now or we plan to have done before we leave. Okay, you can go to the next one. All right, and so this was on the instruction/intervention side. When I showed you that slide, I told you that our students have gone backwards. There's lots of intervention that's happening. We are using our Title IV funds to help with tutoring after school. But not only that, intervention in the classroom. We created 2 courses for math and ELA this particular school year to help address some of those deficits. We're grateful to the board and central office for allowing us to get our learning support people. They are in and they are kicking butt. We have some good ones. They are going in to help students that have the gaps in math, ELA. So we are grateful and we're using them, because I'm gonna say again that this is not easy, but we're working to achieve those things. All right, go ahead. All right, next up is communication. And I do need to back up and say that the academics component belongs to me and Ms. Bryant. She's the assessment person, so we got questions, ask her. All right, so Next up, communication. This is Mrs. McClovitt, who's working with this area. This is a quick area, it's not long. One of the goals kind of have already been met. We thought it was important that we were communicating to our staff internally, and that comes from, again, the board's vision, but we also sat on the committee, several of us in here, where we saw that communication was an issue. It was an issue inside and out. And so we've been working on doing better. And also just, if you live in Maple Heights, you probably can hear that I'm not from here. I haven't lived here all my life, but I love getting the community connections before I start working in Maple Heights. I love getting that because I'm a Maple Heights resident myself. And so we get the community connections and then it kind of went away, but we got it back. So you see some pretty cool things that you didn't know maybe going into schools. So that was a part of the goal to support that. You can go ahead. So this one was relatively easy. So again, communication internally and externally. And this was actually, I also, again, to be transparent, this was a goal for me, myself, not just the school, but this was a goal for me to do better on. When I had my meetings with Dr. Keenan or Sonia, or Ms. Cruz, we talked about, I want to be a better communicator with the families in our district. So we try not to wait to the last minute to send things. We try to update you as much as we can. And our staff, I do my Sunday times. Probably usually when I'm watching football, I like to interrupt their night and send it out or what's going on for the week. We've been doing that just so they can know. And then just good old fashioned open door. Like if you want to know, you can come ask. You know, I'm here for that. You can come ask. So I appreciate my staff for being open as well and to help with this. But we know that there were some gaps. Our staff has been using Remind. People be like, it's high school, we don't need that. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So we've been using Remind and Google Classroom to our advantages to communicate with parents outside. We did get a Facebook, Instagram, and a Twitter, not my account, actual high school account. And so we've met some of these goals already. Okay. Then the next one was the community connections, which you can go ahead and go through that one because we're doing it. I saw Gia, but I think she's back there. Gia is back there. Gia McKinnon, our communications director, have done a great job spearheading that. And like I said, we work with her, Ms. McClovitt worked with her, pick stories, meet the deadlines and all that good stuff to get it out, and that's happening. So we've done this check and we're trying to keep it up. Okay. And then last up is diversity and equity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is cut off a little bit, but you can see up here that there were several reasons that we needed this plan. Now, I want to just clarify something. I know when you hear diversity, equity, and inclusion, you may instantly think Black kids, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And so you'll see there's a lot on here about trauma and restorative practices, that type thing, you know, especially because we have a large population of students with disabilities. So a lot of our plans, at least one of them, address some of that because the committee kept saying, why you have so many suspensions? You know, why you have so many students with disabilities that's been suspended so much? That type thing. So this is not just about Black or white. It's bigger than that. It's gender, you know, it's the underserved, the underlooked. So we have our plans. Now, one thing that I am very proud of, the diversity, equity, and inclusion didn't start this year. We started working on it last year. Our central office committee did a great job of working with us as an administrative team. We read books, we talked about it, had some uncomfortable conversations. Some of this was sparked by the social unrest of summer of 2020. And there was just some things that needed to be addressed and talked about. And at times, while it's not uncomfortable, it's worth it. So we kept going, we kept that energy going to build our plans. But as a theme for the high school, we chose to focus on HBCUs, all aspects of it. So at the start of the year, every door was decorated and represented an HBCU because we wanted to get our students to know exactly what they are and to let them know that there are schools that you can go to that represent you. So that was the high school's focus for DEI. But we also had the plans to help address the students that suffer from trauma, okay? you can go ahead. All right, so also, we got a great additional hire for the district. Ms. Tracy Collier, who's our PBIS person for the district. She's been working with us on coming up with ways to try to do some restorative justice and actually work on addressing trauma. Because at the end of the day, the suspension to prison pipeline is real. It's real for sure, just as sure as I'm standing here. And just as long as we keep suspending, we are adding to that. We don't like to accept it, and I know sometimes I even get tired of doing everything we do, suspend us in a home. But we are working on changing that mindset. We're working on how we could do some restorative justice. And it has to be bigger than just us as an administrative team. It has to trickle down to our staff, trickle down to our students and families to understand that we definitely need the help. So Tracy, in addition to Mr. West that's back there, Mr. Meyer, this is his area, we have been really working really hard to see some of these changes. Ms. Coward is back there, she's on that committee also. So thank you all, but these are the things that we're doing to help address trauma and restorative practice right now. We had a meeting today that was pretty good, some good things came out of it, so we're working on it. All right, and then the next one was working on, this is come from the committee, how can we reduce the number of suspensions we have, because suspension also ties into our chronic absenteeism rate. It doesn't matter when you are suspended, it doesn't matter, you're absent. So that helps, that drives that chronic absenteeism, right? And I just feel like, okay, we don't have a chronic absenteeism rate that's so high, but some of this we can control. It's suspension, some of it. So we're working on ways to be able to help reduce some of the suspensions. This is our first year. This is just a 1-year plan of it. Again, I said earlier, these are 5-year plans, but these are the things we're working on right now. You can go ahead. All right. So just some of the things we had to look at right away was just our code of conduct. You know, was it up to par? Is it aligning with the behaviors that we were actually seeing? Entering of data from Swiss to Dazzle, the type of referrals, the number of referrals that we're writing, who's writing, when they're writing, all those, that good stuff. We had to look at, you know, and say, these are the problems, and this is what we need to do. So we're still auditing those as we talk. As I speak, today's meeting is about what specific behaviors do we need to address. So again, those are the things. Go ahead. All right, so in closing, I leave you with a poem that's called Be the Best at Whatever You Are. If you can't be a pine on the top of the hill, be a squirrel up in the valley. But be the best little squirrel by the side of the hill, be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a bush, be a bit of grass, and some way highway happy your mate. If you can't be a muskie, then just be a bass, but be the liveliest bass in the lake. We can't all be captains. We've got to be crew. There's something for all of us here. There's big work to do, there's lesser work to do, and the task you must do is near. If you can't be a highway, then just be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. It isn't about the size that you win or fail, but be the best at whatever you are. That's my closing for us today, because again, there's lots of work here to do. And there's something for everybody, not just me. There's something for everybody, no matter what your position is in this building, this district. There's work for us all to do, and we have to do it. So thank you all for coming. One more. That was our, I put that there because that's what we were going to show last year. Our shirt says producing Pathfinders every day. Pathfinders is our Black History Assembly celebration where we recognize our Pathfinders from Maple Heights in 5 different areas. And so actually, I want to talk to the board about that. Our one for this year, I know Colton has kind of canceled some of the things. So I want to get some opinions on some things. So I can ask offline for that. And then that's it. I think that was one more thing. That's it. Thanks. Water. I know there's a lot of information to take on. If there's anyone in the community that didn't have access to the slide, we will definitely, I do not mind sharing it. What's? Yeah, and now, board, if you all have any questions.
How about us make a comment? I'll ask questions later. I appreciate this presentation. It is exactly what we're talking about, at the board table. And I know that sometimes to different staff members, to students, to parents, everybody don't always get a picture of what we're trying to do, but it's important that we continue to just tell our narrative, tell the success that, our students can succeed, but get people on board to buy in some of the things that we're doing. You think about the pandemic alone, we see the impact it had on students just not being there. So we have to look at that in the same eye, the same vein as student discipline. When we're looking at chronic absenteeism, people don't realize that 10 days of school out is a lot, and I just appreciate, again, the whole presentation, thinking about just some of those things that we've laid out in the board in terms of restorative practice, in terms of communication. Those are going to be the vital pieces that continues to set us apart, and help us continue to build. So I just say thank you again to your administrative staff and to your entire staff, and all the work that you do on behalf of our students. Thank you.
I just got a few questions. What's the criteria for the 8th graders to take the ACT?
Okay. Board President Garth asked, what was the criteria for the 8th graders to take the ACT? So this is what we did. There's something we purchased called ACT Aspire that we gave to 8th grade students, and it would rank them, who would be here, who would be there. So we used that instead of going out, you're on a class, doing honors classes, you can do it. We didn't use that. We used what the data saw. And then Mr. Bennett and the curriculum department put in some criteria, like you would come to tutoring 2 to 3 times a week. Also, there was a few Saturday schools involved in it. If you met all those things, you could actually take the test and we would pay for it as a district. So that's what it was.
So, that's the last one. What's the biggest barrier to get us back?
Okay. So he asked what was our biggest barrier to getting us back. Right now, I'm gonna say attendance. Attendance is a big deal for us right now. It is low, and some of it, there's no one to really point a finger at or to blame, but the pandemic is real. You have people who have beliefs that, I'd rather my child stay home, it's not safe here. And then granted, students really were sick. And again, if you stay home and you miss 10 days because you were out sick in isolation, you're already chronically absent for the whole year. And there's nothing we can do about that. You are in our numbers. You've met that 72-hour threshold. So attendance is real. I want to just say, while I do have the floor, that tardies to school factor into attendance, because attendance is based on hours, not days anymore. So we have students that are late to school every single day. I know you've been hearing me make the robocalls, going to the store, whatever it is, parents bringing students late every day. It adds up. If you have 49 hours of tardies, that's 7 days of school. And that goes into chronic absenteeism. So, Mr. Garth, I would say that that's our biggest barrier right now. Anybody? Did you have something? Ms. Gardner, did you have anything? Mr. Blackwood, did you have anything? Thank you. All right.
Okay, board, let's go back and take our seats. Thank you, Dr. Price. Get a round of applause for Dr. Price for the presentation. Okay, before Dr. Price and the team leave and the staff are here, I just want to thank the high school staff and the high school administration. That was an awesome report out this evening. And one thing that I was very proud of is that I didn't hear a lot of excuse making. I mean, people could say things about attendance and about, the pandemic, but in the end, owning our data and trying to take our continuous improvement plan and apply the strategies and goals. The high school has done that, and they've done that without a bunch of excuse making, and that'd be easy to do. So, thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for focusing on the continuous improvement plan that we put in place through the board's direction, and at the building level doing that as well. Which leads me to a couple of things I wanted to bring up publicly for the board. One is just a notification real quickly that that My Kid app that we approved several meetings ago. Mr. Bianchi is telling me that it'll be in place here by mid-February. So that's an app that will help us expedite some of the traffic congestion at the elementary school, which I'm sure most of our residents and staff will be happy and pleased that we're making some effort in that direction. The second thing is the board, we have a DEI. This presentation today is a building level expectation of the goals, but there's a district level goals as well. And DEI is one of our district level goals, and we have a district committee, and one of our board members who's no longer on the board was on that committee. So I'll ask the board to kind of talk that over and decide who they want to recognize as the next person to step up and be on that committee moving forward. And then the third thing is we have a board calendar that was put out by the previous board, passed out to the board members, that outlines us covering strategic plan initiative at the building and district level throughout the rest of through this school year, and it forwarded this current part of the school year. With a new board, I wanted them to take a look at this. Our next meeting, we had an expectation that the district would provide an update of our second quarter district continuous improvement plan in the 4 areas. And so if you can give me feedback on that, so that I'll be prepared to have our administrative team do that as well. So take a look at that, and then I'll ask for some direction on that next week. For my report for this evening, under recommendations, I'm recommending to the board 8B 1 through 7, and under personnel 8C 1 through 6.
Okay, board superintendent's excellence for approval of B1 through 7 and C1 through 6, A1 through A4 was information purposes only. Do I have a motion? Second. Can I have a roll call? Other school.
Ms. Parks? Yes. Blackwell?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Granger? Yes. Mr. Garber?
Yes, is there any discussion?
Resolution number 22-16 is the board taking action to officially recognize Juneteenth as part of our schools, allotting those individuals who work throughout the year that day off. I think that not just getting the day off, but just recognizing and understanding, the importance, for African Americans of history, and freedom. It's something important that we should all celebrate. So while most of our teachers are not working, then we want to make sure that we continue to celebrate and honor in every way in which we can. Again, going back to those diversity, equity, and inclusion pillars, that we really want to find ways that we can really identify and operationalize, not just words on paper, sound good, but just ways in which we're going to show our commitment to things that we say. So that's just my piece on that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, motion approved. Next, we have our visitors' participation. Please come up and please say your name and your address. Please don't get a 3-minute talk limit. Anybody like to address the board? Hold on, please.
My name is Kimberly Brown.
and I'm with the News Break and the Brown Report newspaper. And today I want to address the board, not the school. Recently, there was a situation on social media whereas you had school board members participating. And because of that participation, you had an elected school board person who resigned from the seat immediately. My question to the school board is threefold. Do you have a policy regarding school board members who bully? If you do have that policy, please give us a copy of that policy so I may be accurate in my reporting. And if you don't have a policy, are you or will you consider putting together a policy that will address school board members who are supposed to be leaders in our community who commit this type of heinous act on Facebook, and what their punishment will be, even if it means that school board member making a public apology or stepping down? Thank you. Kimberly Brown with News Break. Policy regarding school board members who bully on Facebook or and make inappropriate comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'll go back and look for a policy that would specifically address that. Obviously, the school board has a policy. No one is, we don't allow bullying at any level. So that's already in place, but I'll look for an exact policy and I'll make sure that I get that to you. Thank you.
At this time, we'll go into executive session. All right, we'll go to executive session for legal and personnel. Now, motion please. And second. Got a roll call, please.
Ms. Moore? Yes. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Granger? Yes.
Yes, it's now 7:11, and we are now in executive